Back with another NBA season recap video, and today we got the Cleveland Cavaliers. Just been a very odd season for this team. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of weird player movement, player transaction trades, players they decided to keep, players they decided to let go. We're going to be talking about all of that in this NBA season recap for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Before we get started with today's video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you are watching from YouTube. If you're from Newsbreak, appreciate you guys for following the Newsbreak channel. Salute to you guys. But today we got to get back to the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's just really hard to say what Dan Gilbert's ultimate objective is with this team. And you just really have to think, man. Kevin Love, an older veteran with this younger core group of guys, doesn't seem like it's the perfect situation for him. He hasn't really meshed well with these young stars. We've seen him implode multiple times. He hasn't gotten along with some of the new coaching staff. I mean, he's vocally voiced his displeasure with JB Bickerstaff. Even some of the front office moves that they made. You have a guy like Andre Drummond who, when you had him there at the beginning of the season, things looked like the Cavs could potentially be a playoff team. All right, but ultimately they decide to sit Andre Drummond, and then they send him into the buyout market. They really don't get anything in return after trading for him. So I mean, the moves that they make, trading for Drummond, you draft Colin Sexton, but then you also draft Darius Garland. It's just like, who's the guard you want in the future? You start to retain Matthew Dellavedova, another older guard. You have expiring young talent like Kevin Porter Jr. You ultimately let him walk because he's disgruntled, and he now looks like an aspiring rookie over in Houston. What is the direction of this team? What are they trying to build? Are they trying to strip everything down and start from the core, or are they trying to build from within and also stay competitive while doing so? I don't know, but we'll get to it in this NBA season recap video. As usual, make sure you guys follow along. Let me know in the comments what you think about this video. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get to the Cleveland Cavaliers NBA season recap. The Cavaliers have talented young pieces, but seemingly with no plan on how to contend in their division, let alone their conference or the NBA. Things looked good early on when the Cavs opened the season with a 3-0 start. The third game of the season was a 118-94 win over the Philadelphia 76ers. The hot start cooled off, and the Cavs ended January with a 9-11 record. It was toward the end of this month that planted the seeds for collapse of their actual season. On January 13th, the blockbuster 14 7-player deal to move James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets sent budding big man Jarrett Allen to the Cavs. Head coach JB Bickerstaff opted to use some of center Andre Drummond's minutes to play Allen more rather than playing the two bigs together. The decision did not sit well with the two-time NBA All-Star. A month after the deal, Drummond was sitting out games as the Cavs prepared to move him during the trade window. A deal was not done before the deadline. However, the two parties agreed to a buyout at the end of March. For better or worse, Kevin Love is a part of the plan moving forward, which is currently one less decision that management has to make this offseason. Two priorities are the contracts of Allen and Sexton as their rookie deals wind down. JB Bickerstaff is set to return in that role next season, though Kobe Altman has shown no issue with firing personnel. Bickerstaff still has 3 more seasons remaining on his deal. Entering the offseason free agency, already $18.8 million above the salary cap, Dan Gilbert will have to decide how much he's willing to continue to pay the luxury tax on a losing team, which could cause the team to change ownership. Short of a true star to play with the young talent next season does not project much different results in the standings. Big decisions will be made. Whether it will be regarding ownership, management, or players is yet to be seen. But there is a storm brewing in Cleveland. All right, when we look at the Cleveland Cavaliers off-season outlook, let's look at their upcoming free agents. To begin with, we have Jarrett Allen. As mentioned earlier, a budding big man. He's shown a lot of promise. Started his career in Brooklyn. Brooklyn ultimately moved on from him to acquire James Harden. But again, this is a player that the Cleveland Cavaliers absolutely cannot afford to lose. When he was on the court, when he was healthy, he showed glimpses of being great. If this big man, let's say if he can look to develop some form of a mid-range jump shot to extend his range, we really definitely can, we can really look to see his game evolve, and maybe this Cavalier team can take another leap. Let's look at Matthew Dellavedova. Matthew Dellavedova is a player, again, as a vet in this league. He's great to have on this particular team. He's probably great for young guards like Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. But ultimately, they're going to have to move on from these older players that cannot really impact this team with regards to winning and losing. Maybe if this team had a legitimate chance to make the playoffs, maybe you keep the Dellavedova for his playoff experience. But it doesn't look like the Cavaliers are taking those types of steps next season. So I expect that they allow Matthew Dellavedova to walk away and potentially sign with another team in the NBA. Tools to improve the roster. The Cavs do have the mid-level exception at $9.5 million, and that's only assuming that the Cavs match Jared Allen's offer, which is what we expect. They do have a trade exception from JaVale McGee, which is worth $4.2 million, and that expires next year in March. The best thing that they have to improve their roster is that the Cleveland Cavaliers have the number 3 pick in the draft. And luckily for the Cavs, this is one of the strongest draft classes that we can potentially see probably in the last 5 to 10 years. So we can see them. I can see them bolstering this roster to a certain degree, but will they use it to improve the roster? We saw them kind of squander their picks over the last couple of years drafting guards. The Kevin Porter Jr. pick looked to be a great signing, but the Cavs never did anything to allow him to blossom. We didn't see Kevin Porter Jr. blossom until he went to Houston. Are they going to squander another pick? That's yet to be seen. Should they trade the pick just to bring in an all-star veteran type player that can help make them a playoff contender immediately? That's yet to be seen, but the Cleveland Cavaliers have a lot to decide on because they don't have the salary cap space. Normally, you see that salary cap space with young teams that are generally losing year in and year out. Unfortunately for the Cavs, they're over the cap. They've exceeded the cap. So now they have to figure out what are they going to do to either get under the cap, or how can they take advantage of this roster and bring in vets that will allow them to make a playoff push. Key moves to make in the offseason, well, they need to establish a young core. Jared Allen or Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley looks to be that potential third pick. Can they play Jared Allen and Evan Mobley alongside one another, or will they pass on Evan Mobley and maybe look to another talented player on the perimeter? Kevin Love, trade, buyout. Are they going to choose the stretch provision or even waive him? We don't know, but every year, it seems like Kevin Love's name has been in trade talks, and the Cleveland Cavaliers never seem to move the aging power forward. Doesn't look like Kevin Love has many years left in his career. Does Kevin Love want to play out his remaining years in Cleveland on a team that's primarily going to be a losing team during the rest of his tenure? And then lastly, the Cleveland Cavaliers need to decide if Colin Sexton is the guy long term. We've heard that he is on the trade market going into the trade deadline, but we have yet to see the Cavs pull the trigger on any significant deals that would really shape or reshape this roster going forward in the future. Make sure you guys let me know what you think about this Cleveland Cavalier team. If you are a Cleveland Cavalier fan, what are your thoughts about what Dan Gilbert has done since LeBron James has left? I think that team has been a mess. I think he's done a terrible job. If you look at from the initial hiring of John Beilein, who just didn't seem like a good fit. Obviously, he was out of there quick. They bring in JB Bickerstaff. I like him. He's a young coach. He's bringing a different type of energy. But man, who's making the decisions on the roster? You have Jared Allen, you have Andre Drummond, you have Kevin Love being in and out the rotation with injury. You got Darius Garland. You draft Colin Sexton, 2 guards that kind of play alike to a certain extent outside of Garland being able to shoot better. You draft Kevin Porter Jr. He doesn't mesh well with the locker room. You ultimately suspend and then trade him to Houston, and now he looks like a potential all-star in this league. I mean, what's going on with this Cleveland Cavalier team? Because when you look at all of the pieces involved, it's starting to look like it's the organization, not the players. Now that we see how Kevin Porter Jr. blossomed in Houston, it looks like the problem was the Cleveland Cavalier organization itself. Players are leaving this team and excelling elsewhere, but when they're on this team, similar to what we saw with Drummond, he didn't have the same success that he had when he was in Detroit. All right, same thing with Jared Allen. Jared Allen had much more. He showed much more promise in Brooklyn than he did with the Cav team. And with this Cav team, I don't know if it's their style of play. I don't know if it's the players. I mean, we've heard a lot of the gripes around the league about Colin Sexton's point guard play, his inability to run the offense, his inability to remember plays offensively and defensively. Are those some of the issues? And then we've also seen Kevin Love explode and implode multiple times on court because of how bad this team is. So the Cleveland Cavaliers have a lot to figure out. You guys let me know in the comments what you think about this team. I would love to hear back from you. But again, my projection for this team is that they are not in the playoffs. I don't think they have the personnel to do so, and unless we see them make some major moves, potentially with that number 3 pick, and let's say they can go make a crazy trade and bring in a Damian Lillard. That's really outside of them making any crazy moves like that. I don't see this Cleveland Cavalier team being competitive at all in the Eastern Conference. But hey, it's FYF Sports, man. It's been another great NBA recap video. Remember, we're going to be doing all 30 teams. So make sure you check the channel. Make sure you check for that playlist. Check out all those videos because we've already done a number of teams so far. And we're going to be dropping 3 to 4 videos per week until we cover all 30 teams. But make sure you tune into our live streams. We try to go live multiple times a week. We'll be going live tonight. So make sure you tune in to our live stream. Follow us as we cover the NBA Finals, Kwame Brown. All topics sports related are on the table to conversate about. You can always join the live panel if you want to chime in and speak directly with us, or you can just stay in the chats and give us your thoughts and support from there. Hey, but it's FYF Sports, man. It's been another great podcast episode. We'll be back with more sports and news later, but until then, it's FYF Sports. We out.
They don't want to see me win. No, they don't wanna see me win. They must be up the pucky way they trippin'. Just tryna get to that money, I ain't saying that. Why they tryna send a boy to jail? All I wanna do is get this money and prefer. Police knocking on my door, I don't know what to do. I look like a fool, what they tryna see me do? Body on me, I don't know what I've done. I'm just trying to get to the money, then the police come, I'm done. I might have to live my life on the run, yeah, or some, yeah. I don't want no court case, I just wanna get this money in the case. Put it in the safe, rappers in the rain, cause I ain't feeling safe, yeah. They wanna take me away, yeah. I don't wanna go to jail, yeah, yeah. They wanna take me away, yeah. Pulling the coupe out of love, pulling your tongue out of love. You ain't the shit better stop, cause I'm gonna make a control. I'm gonna make a control, yeah. In a black potion, off I can do una. I can no stop that no. But I wanna let the young back go. Yeah, I wanna send me, yeah. I don't wanna go to jail, I don't wanna go to jail, They don't wanna see me win, No, they don't wanna see me win, They must be up the pucky way they trippin'. Just tryna get to that money, I ain't saying that. Why they tryna send a boy to jail? All I wanna do is get this money and prefer. Police knocking on my door, I don't know what to do. I look like a fool, what they tryna see me do?